Hi everybody, and welcome to the What's New webinar for the latest release of Mission Control. So the most recent release is available as of today. So we're going to jump in and take a look at what's new. Okay, so at a very high level, we'll just cover off a few things, and then we'll jump into a bit more detail, and then dive into a demo shortly. So running down the list, so we've added in a cash flow report. We've introduced a new mobile app page that gives you access to the action pad. We've introduced a new page that allows you to manage the purchase order items, and expenses all from one interface. Introduced the ability to roll over unused retainer amounts for set periods of time. Similar to all of our other clone pages, we've introduced a clone page at the phase level, so you can clone a phase and all of its related records. Added in support for multiple purchase orders when raising invoices for customers, and introduced the ability to change the color settings on key feature pages within the system. Added some additional enhancements to the Gantt chart that build on some enhancements that came in the most recent release, and then there's a few minor updates as well. So getting into a bit more detail on some of those key features. So the cash flow report. So this is going to be really valuable to anyone that's using any of our billing event functionality. So it's pretty much impossible to go to a Salesforce report and get all of this information in one place, because it's pulled from so many different places based on whether you're, based on the billing type and the billing cycle that you're using. So this will give you insight into your predicted cash flow, so the money coming into the business from the billing events that you're raising. The mobile app action pad. So this is a mobile-friendly page that gives you access to your actions and checklist items. There's quick filters to show you what you're working on today, what you did yesterday, what you've got tomorrow, next week, this week, and so on. As well as seeing those actions and checklists and being able to tick those off, you've also got the ability to log time on the go as well. The purchase order page. This is a one page interface that allows you to manage the purchase order items, and the expenses that are coming against that purchase order as well. So really just a user experience enhancement to help managing those records. This one, super excited to be delivering. It's been something that I've had on the roadmap for a while. So we have the retainer to T&M functionality in Mission Control. So every month you're raising a retainer-based invoice, and then anything you use over and above that retainer, you can raise a time and materials invoice. But in some instances, you might not have actually reached the retainer amount, and that the balance of that retainer goes unused. Now, some customers don't let that roll over, but some do, and Mission Control didn't support that, so now it does. So you've got the ability to choose to roll over those unused balances. You can specify how many periods they can roll over for, and you can also specify the consumption method. So are you going to use the oldest unused balance first, or the newest unused balance first? So we'll cover that off later on. Phase clone. So this is a deep dive. This is a deep clone of the phase and the related records. So you're able to clone all related milestones, actions, contributors, checklist items, and dependencies. So billing events. So previously you were able to specify a purchase order on the project, and any billing event raised would reference that purchase order. Obviously, we have customers who have large ongoing projects with their clients, and their clients can often issue multiple purchase orders. So you've now got the ability to support multiple customer purchase orders based on associating those the milestones and actions to those, and the expenses to those purchase orders. So there's not really a lot to demonstrate on this, so we're not really going to cover it in the actual live demo, but we definitely recommend you reading through the user documentation to understand whether your business can benefit from this feature. The feature page color settings. So this gives you the ability to customize the colors of the bar and or text over that bar, and based on a specific custom pick list field on the action object that you might want to use. So for example, you might want the color to change based on the action type value. And you're able to choose which of the key feature pages that this coloring gets applied to. And this will take precedence over any of the other coloring options that Mission Control provides. So you can apply this to the scheduler, the Gantt chart, whiteboard, checklist board, project grid, and epic board. And last of the I guess the last step in the process of the work that we've been working on over the last few releases. So in the most recent release, we introduced the ability to use the Gantt chart for role forecasts. So at that time, you could either look at actions or you could look at role forecasts. This enhancement finishes that off and allows you to choose whether to look at both, but the actions win, or both where the forecasts win. So for example, you might have, this will obviously be beneficial when you're using the standalone Gantt chart, looking at multiple projects together. So in some instances, you might want to look at the actions of project A, but project B doesn't have actions yet, it has forecasts, but you want to be able to look at project A and project B together. So you can actually choose, for example, both forecast wins, and you would be able to see both of those. So giving you a complete picture of your demand and your schedule. And the client read-only page has also had another tab added to it that you can choose to include. So this time, this is the requirements tab. So if you are using requirements and user stories within Mission Control, you can choose to include that tab on the read-only page and share those with your customer. And so obviously they can click into each requirement and view the detailed user stories behind it. And then just some minor enhancements that we've included. So we've added in parameters to the log time component that allow you to map custom fields to any of the lookup fields. So for example, if you've added a project lookup field on your case object and you're using the log time component, you can map that custom field to the project lookup on the log time component, so you don't have to manually update it each time. So definitely read through the documentation on that. We've also made some enhancements to the timesheet approvals where you can you can have like preset views. So whether you're looking at all time logs that need approval, everything within the last week or a certain period. And a couple of additional settings on the timesheet, the ability to turn off the master team deactivation, and introducing a new setting that allows you to disable all export services if you don't want people being able to import or export things like the Gantt chart PDF, the Gantt chart PNG, and so on. Okay, so what we'll do now is jump in and take a look at some of those key features in a bit more detail. Okay, the first thing that we're going to take a look at is the cash flow report. So you access the cash flow report via the management pad. You'll find there's a new tile on there which allows you to view and click into the report. So as I just mentioned, this is really valuable because you can't get all of this information in one place via a standard report in Salesforce. Obviously, we've got a lot of different billing types. So there's billing types like fixed price plus expenses, time and materials. There's also different billing cycles, whether that's manual, milestone based, time and periodic, or retainer. So all of those things combined make it pretty much impossible to pull this information into a custom report. So we've built this cash flow report to provide a one-stop shop to view all of this information. So I'll just walk you through the page first of all. You've got the group by values. So you'll see this is giving me the ability to view by project owner. So you'll see down into the actual cash flow information. This is showing me by individual person. I could switch that over to category, so the different categories of projects, or I could switch it over to programs as well. I'm also able to choose how I'm plotting that information on. So right now I'm plotting it into the month that the invoice is going to be raised. Alternatively, I could be looking at due date instead. So obviously I know when I'm going to raise it, but my customer could be on 60-day payment terms. So there's no point me thinking I'm getting that money in August when I'm really going to get it in October. You've then got the ability to, so it will always default to today. You've got the ability to look at this on a weekly basis, monthly or quarterly. And ultimately, depending on which option you choose, you can always look out to 1 year. You've got the ability to quickly toggle, like collapse and expand all of the information. And then you can also, if you don't want the chart visible, you can toggle that off. And all of these settings are persistent as well. So if you always want to look at months and you always want to look at 12 months, you won't have to select that each time. But obviously, if you do make any changes, you can click on go, and then that will regenerate the report. You can apply filters up here, so if you're looking to apply a filter to any particular projects, and you can also export it as a CSV. Okay, so what this is showing me is obviously per project, who the project owner is, what's the overall budget, what billing type, what billing cycle we're dealing with, and then based on all of those parameters, it's showing us when we're expecting to, in this instance, raise invoices based on the invoice date. So this obviously gives me insight into how much money I'm expecting to drive into the business based on the projects that we've got. There's a lot of different rules that get applied based on which billing type, which billing cycle. So rather than talking through them all and boring you to death here, I would definitely recommend reading through all of those rules in the release note documentation. But super excited to be delivering this. It's something that I've definitely wanted to see in the product for some time. So really look forward to hearing what you think of it. Okay, so we're now going to take a look at the action pad that we've added to the mobile app. So as I say, this is a mobile-friendly action pad that allows you to access your actions and checklists and log time on the go. So if you're a field-based engineer that you're out doing various jobs, this is going to be really valuable. You can see up the top, you can have a predefined filter. So whether you're looking at what am I working on today, what did I work on yesterday that I might need to finish off? What have I got for this week or next week, and so on. So what this is showing me is each action, so I can see the action number, the details supporting that. So what's the action name, the project, what's the status, and so on, as well as any related checklist items that are assigned to myself as well. So I'm able to tick any of these off with what click of the checkbox. So I can come along and log time. So on PAN 0067, I might have said, oh, I've just done 1 hour there. If I want to increase that to 1.5, I'm just using the +5 increment there, and I can click the pencil to add notes, very much like the mobile app time logger functionality. But I'm also able to mark off individual things as well. So if I click onto the checkbox for that checklist item, so you can see that's automatically saved as well. So any time logs that I want to save, I just need to come up and click the save button up the top there. So then all of those time logs are saved. So for someone who is out on the go while they're executing their projects, this is going to be a really valuable tool to leverage. So all details all of the details displayed here, they're all controlled via field sets. So full information on customizing this are all included in the release notes. So taking a look at the purchase order manager that we've added in, that's accessible when you're editing existing purchase orders, whether you're creating new purchase orders. So I'm just on a project here. I'm on the expenses tab on the purchase order sub tab here. So if I click on the new PO button, that gives me access to create a new purchase order. So instead of just creating the purchase order, what it now gives me the ability to do is also create the purchase order items. So I'm doing this all in one interface. I'm not having to create the purchase order, then go to the related list and create the purchase order items one at a time. I'm able to do everything in one go. So fill in all of the information relating to the purchase order, I've got the ability to add in as many purchase order items as I need. So if I just add another one in there, and let's say I'm going to need 10 things that cost $1,000 and five that cost $5,000, you can see that I'm getting a summary of the total amount there as well. So I can then obviously keep a track of whether that's all accurate. And then subsequently, when you are receiving expenses, you've got the ability to come in and record those as well. So the beauty of this page, it pulls together the purchase order items, and the expenses all in one place. So if I just cancel out of that, and so if I go into, as well as using it for new, I can also do it for existing as well. So if I click on edit there, that's going to open up the same component, pulling in all of the information from my existing purchase order with the related order items and expenses as well. For my expenses, I do have the ability, so if I go in and add a new expense, you'll see that I've got the ability to upload a receipt here as well. So if I've got an invoice from a supplier and I want to upload that as a file attached to that expense, I can do that directly from here as well. All of the fields on the purchase order items, and the expense sections, they're all controlled via field sets on the applicable objects, and details of how to use those are included in the release notes. So when running a retainer to T&M project, you can now optionally choose to leverage the retainer rollover functionality. So this enables you to roll over unused balances from retainer invoices to be consumed in future periods. So not a huge amount to physically demo here, but I'm just going to talk you through the key settings. So on a project, I will just configure this to show you. So this might be a fixed price project, and I might be choosing to say that this is sorry, I'm just going to go back up and say it's not a fixed price project, it's a retainer to T&M project. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to set that to periodic, and I'm going to set my retainer amount to be $5,000. So normal retainer to T&M would be that it will automatically raise a retainer invoice for 5,000. Now, if I go over that 5,000 and log more time or expenses, an additional invoice will be raised for anything that I've incurred over that 5,000. However, in the months where I use less than the $5,000, I would have an unused amount left on that retainer. So what you're able to do now is use this enable retainer rollover. So this allows you to say, you might have an agreement with your customer, you might be on a managed services agreement, and you're charging them $5,000 every month, and anything that's not used in a particular month can carry over for 3 subsequent months. So let's say they end up using $6,000 in the following month, and you had $1,000 left over from the previous month. That $1,000 would be consumed rather than receiving a time and materials invoice for that extra. So to leverage that, you can click on the Enable Retainer Rollover button. You can also choose the consumption method, so it can be newest to oldest or oldest to newest. So you might have a scenario where you say, look, you can roll this over for 3 months, but once it's expired after that 3 months, it's no longer available to be consumed. So the newest obviously is the most current period, and then it will go back to previous months, or oldest will take the oldest one available and consume it until it reaches the newest. So obviously you've got the flexibility to choose which way around you want to do that. And then you can also specify how many rollover periods. So in my example, I would be using 3 months, and I would say you can consume it oldest to newest. So again, some examples in the release notes of how unused balances will be consumed based on those 2 consumption methods, but definitely a big addition to anyone that has those retainer to T&M style projects. So again, look forward to hearing feedback on that one. Okay, so we have introduced the deep clone feature at the phase level now as well. So you already have this available at the project, the milestone, and the action layers. We've now got it there for the phase layer as well. So on an individual phase. Obviously, a phase could have multiple milestones, actions, checklists, contributors, and dependencies underneath it. What you're now able to do is use the clone button and perform a deep clone. So rather than just cloning the individual phase record, it will now clone all of the subsequent layers underneath it as well. So if I take a look here, you can see that I've got my overall phase record. I can see my clone settings, so I've got the ability to adjust the action dates. I can choose to clone checklists, clone contributors, and then I've got each of the individual milestones and actions under there. Obviously, checklists aren't displayed on the page, but checklists, contributors, and dependencies will all be cloned as well. And you've got field sets to control which fields are displayed here. So obviously, I can go through and make adjustments to any of these records prior to cloning. But ultimately, once I've cloned, I can either clone it as an additional phase on an existing project or reparent over to a new project. We've introduced a new feature that allows you to control the coloring of actions or checklists on various pages, and that is controlled on the mission control console on the control pad. So if we scroll down, we'll get to a section on the right hand side here that allows us to specify a few things here. So I can choose which field on the action object I want to use. So I've already got this pre-configured. So I've chosen the action type. So it's basically any pick list field that you've added to the action object you can use. And then it will display all of the values that you have in that field. And for each of those, you can control the bar color and the font color. So I've gone through and put in hex colors for each scenario, and then I'm just getting a preview of what that's going to look like. So then I can choose which of my key pages I apply this to. So you'll see I've applied this to the scheduler, the whiteboard, and the grid. Can obviously apply it to these. I've just chosen not to. So I'll just jump over a few examples to show you. So if I go to the scheduler, you'll see that these actions are all now being displayed in the color that has been associated to that action type. If the field being used doesn't have a value, it would the color would just default back to the color that you've set on the project. If I take a look at the whiteboard again, the color on the left hand side is showing up based on these settings, and then on the grid here as well, it's also showing up using that color. So if I just jump back and say, look, I've decided I don't want to do that on the whiteboard, I'm going to turn that off. And just go back to the whiteboard and refresh. So you'll see it's now reverted back to the colors that are sourced on the project itself. So a bit of flexibility coming from a few customer requests there. Hope you like it and get a lot of value out of it. Okay, taking a look at the enhancement that's been made to the Gantt chart. As a reminder, this is a build on an enhancement that came in the previous release. So what we introduced in the last release was the ability to enable the role forecast Gantt chart. So on the control pad, you've got a setting here to enable role forecast Gantt chart. So you need to obviously tick that and save the button down here, and then. What you're able to then do, what you were able to do was look at either actions or role forecasts. Now, when we take a look, you'll see that there's 4 options. So as in addition to actions and forecasts, we've got both forecast wins or both action wins. So ultimately what this means is if you've got this set to both, looking at an individual project, if both forecast wins is set, if the project has a work breakdown structure of milestones and actions and also role forecasts, it will show the role forecasts. If it's set to both action wins, again, if it has both of those scenarios, it will show the actions. So obviously it doesn't really make much of an impact on an individual project, but when you're looking at the Gantt chart as a standalone tool and you're pulling in multiple projects, some of your projects might not actually have a work breakdown structure yet, but you've allocated your resources at a high level using the role forecasts. So you're able to now look at multiple projects. Some of them will have a work breakdown structure, some of them will have role forecasts, but you can pull them all into one view here. So it becomes really powerful to actually see the full view of resource demand and what that schedule looks like. So in this instance, you can see the Aprika build project, that's showing me my work breakdown structure. But this RIP curl project, it's only got some role forecasts. So really being able to pull both sets of data into the one place, really valuable. The other thing that we've added onto the Gantt chart, which I know a lot of customers are going to be very happy about because it's a feature request we've received many times. So you previously used to be able to include up to 3 custom fields on the data table. So you can see here I've got some custom fields being displayed. Really happy to tell everyone that that has now changed from 3 up to 10. So you'll see that this layout has changed to where you can now come in here and specify for each layer on the Gantt chart, from portfolio right down to checklist item, you can control up to 10 custom fields instead of 3. So as I say, I know plenty of customers have been talking about that one, so look forward to hearing how happy it's made you all. All right, so the final major enhancement that we want to cover off is an update that we've made to the client read-only page. So obviously a project that relates to a program, you can be leveraging requirements and user stories, and you might want the ability to share those requirements and user stories with your customer. So what we've added in is the ability, so there's a new tab, so you'll need to tick the box here that I'm showing around displaying that requirements tab on the read-only page. There's also some sharing rules, details of which are in the release notes. But if we click over to the read-only page, you'll see now we've got that requirements tab. Down on the left-hand side, we see a list of requirements, and then if they have, so we're able to click onto the icon. That's going to load the details of the overall requirement, but also load in any related user stories that we've got there as well. So able to give the customer full visibility of all requirements and user stories, give them an opportunity to review them, and then come back to us if they feel that we've missed anything. So good opportunity to share some additional information with your customer. Okay, really hope you enjoy all of those new features. Love to hear your feedback, and let's take a look at the schedule of when it's going to become available. So we've got a slightly different schedule than normal, mainly because of the ongoing 2GP migration that we've got taking place. So if you don't recall that, please refer to the email that we sent out on the 17th of July. So because that 2GP migration is going on, there's not going to be any automated sandbox upgrade. So we'll just walk through. So as of the 28th of August, it's going to be available on the App Exchange for you to manually upgrade. So if you're on 2GP already, you're going to be able to go to the App Exchange and manually upgrade. If you're still on 1GP, please reach out to support and ask for 2GP upgrade assistance. Just a reminder, there are details in the release notes of how you identify whether you're currently on 1GP or 2GP. So as I say, 28th of August, it's available. Typically, we would do 2 weeks after that, we would automatically upgrade sandboxes. We're not going to be able to do that for this one release. So again, if you are on 2GP already, you can manually upgrade that sandbox. If you're on 1GP, please reach out to support. And then on the 26th of September, all production orgs will already be migrated over to 2GP by that point, and we will be automatically upgrading all production orgs on that date. So I would like to say thank you for your time. Really appreciate the ongoing support that you provide us, and we hope to hear from you with any new feature requests that you would like to see in the product moving forward. Thanks for your time. Have a great day. Bye.